Okay, so I want to have a discussion. How many kids did you have? How many kids do you think is the perfect amount of children to have where you can actually give the proper amount, whatever you deem proper amount of attention to and pouring into support and love and all of that? So I'm not going to do this article at all. I'm just using it as a jump off point because another content creator who I will make sure to link has already gone through it and given her take, but I'm just wondering for you guys. So, myself personally, I have two children. I did get started late. I possibly could have had three if I would have started a little bit earlier. I think I had mine at 34 and 36. So I was older. I do not plan on having any kids into my 40s. It's just not happening. But like these next two creators that I will put into this video, I'll embed it. They're talking about how when you have way too many kids, somebody is getting the short end of the stick. Also, what I think happens, this is where a lot of kids they get adultified and they get turned into secondary parents. I never wanted to do that with my children. Having two, just think about when a kid gets sick, someone has a project, someone is learning how to read while the other is learning how to use the bathroom. It's just never enough time. And I couldn't imagine doing that with more than two kids. It would just be too draining. As it is, parenting already has you being pulled in multiple directions. So how many siblings did you have? Were you secondary parent? Were you adultified? How many kids do you have? Is that what you planned on having? Do you want more? Do you want a super huge family? Do you have support? Or are you using your children as secondary parents? Go ahead and chime in. I want to get this discussion started.
How many kids we want? And I was like 10, and they were like, dude, are you crazy?
You,
And I'm
you
like,
know what? And you're selfish. You can't give equal love to 10.
She's 100% correct. Gen Z and millennials, listen up here. There absolutely is a healthy amount of children that the average household can support before a lot of issues start to arise, and I want to talk about it here today as someone who was homeschooled for many years and saw a lot of this. Because the number is way lower than you would think. And once again this week, O'Malley is the only person at Barstools who's proving they have a grasp on reality. In that video, she argues that 4 is the maximum amount of children she believes you can have before you start to neglect your other kids. And as someone who grew up in a family of 3 kids, I always personally thought 3 or 4 is definitely where it should max out. But really 2 was the perfect number because even I saw some of that happening with our family. But in a lot of these studies, they suggested that any more than 2 children is where a lot of these issues started to arise, such as affecting the parent's cognitive functioning later in life. The study suggested that even having 3 kids could take like 6.5 years off the end of your life. Because an important part of aging and growing old is having sharp cognitive functions to stay active. Interestingly enough, most of the studies I found talked about how it affects the parents and not the children, which is sad but not surprising. And we'll get to that, but having more kids definitely affects your parenting style. First and foremost, you just get lower expectations, right? Things are just going to get messed up, and that could be good or bad, okay? Not everything needs to be perfect. Along those lines, you start to throw out the parenting books and kind of wing it. Again, could be good or bad. The most obvious one for everyone is it's going to directly affect your wallet, of course, which as we know has a direct and major impact on the child's life. Food, housing, clothes, toys, education, all those things become infinitely harder. Again, the bar for what good parenting is kind of shifts. I've seen a lot of first-time parents that don't believe in that 5-second rule, but once that third kid rolls around, it's like a 5-minute rule. You don't bother with the little things like things being fair anymore, like just suck it up and deal with it is the common response. You start looking at the big picture instead of all the little details, which can be good but also very bad. Things can start falling through the cracks, and obviously the more children you have, the bigger things will fall through cracks. And the biggest issue I think we're all aware of is you learn to outsource, and a lot of that we see is when you start relying on the other older children to be parents as well and take care of the younger ones, thus robbing them of their childhood. I was homeschooled personally for many years of my life, not for religious reasons, but obviously we met a lot of families like that who had tons of kids. And it was extremely rare, not impossible, but rare to ever hear a story from a child who enjoyed having a million siblings that they now were responsible for looking after as well. A lot of them grew up to be very resentful towards their families and not wanting to have children of their own because they feel like they've already done that, sadly. Like, we've all heard the allegations from the 19 kids and counting and the John and K+8 and all of those kinds of families and all the things that were going on in those homes because of the number of children, so things were just falling through the cracks and going unseen. It is genuinely not possible after a certain number of children for each child to have experienced the same parent. And even my family did this a bit at 3 kids, because I specifically remember nannying once for a family of 4 kids where one of the kids was like 17 and could drive a car, and I thought it was so strange that I was just there to drive the siblings around while the other sibling just like had time to go hang out with friends and do their sports and stuff. And then I realized, oh, this is actually really nice for them. Like, they're allowing their teenager to be a teenager and not treating them like a third parent. And it's really refreshing to see, but it's sad that I was like unfamiliar with the concept. And even if you're rich enough to have nannies so that they're not all being like neglected and having to take care of each other, like, that's better, but that's still not the same thing as like experiencing that love from your parents. And that is going to do a number on you in the long run. Listen, a lot of these kids don't regret having a million siblings, right? Because they love all of their siblings and their family at the end of the day. But you definitely could always see and feel that bit of like resentment and see the loss of childhood that happened there.
Now, listen to this next woman's situation and what she experienced growing up and how she was feeling like she was never given enough time with her parents. I completely feel for this young lady. I see and hear the anguish in her heart because she had way too many siblings. Go ahead and listen to her.
This is actually what my Roman Empire is, because you say 10 kids, has 10 cars, 10 dresses for dances, 10 birthdays a year, 10 phones. That's the thing. The parents don't get the kids everything. I have 11 siblings. I have 10 siblings. I'm one of 11. The first few maybe got some stuff. By the time it got to me, I'm number 7. I didn't get a car. I had to pay my own phone bill. Had to pay my own car insurance. Had to pay for my own driving school. Had to pay for all my school dances. Had to pay for school lunch. I had to pay for everything since I was 9, 10, 11 years old. Like, I was in middle school, elementary school, paying for my own way because I would babysit or do little chores around the house to make money. Like, that's the thing. You can't have that many kids and not be a millionaire to be able to take care of all of them. It's just not possible. The creator of this video that this comment is coming from is so on point. You can maybe have 4 kids tops before you start to neglect people. Like, me and my siblings, like my younger siblings, we all were forgotten. We were looked over. There wasn't enough time for us. Like, I did sports for 2-3 years. My mom made 1. My dad made none. Like, there's not enough time. There's not enough hours. There's not enough energy. There's not enough love to go around to love that many children. And I will stand on that till like the day I die. It is so selfish and it's so unfair to have that many kids. If you ask anyone who knows me, they know that all I did my entire childhood was work. Miranda, can you come to sleepover? Sorry, I can't have to work. Miranda, can you go hang out with us? Sorry, I can't. I'm babysitting tonight. You just can't raise that many kids and they turn out okay. They don't all get everything they need.